What's up you guys, Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the Awesome MTB Fall Bike Buyer's Guide. What's up you guys, Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to our Awesome MTB Fall Bike Buyer's Guide. Over the last few months, I've been testing out some of the best bikes on the market. Now these are gonna be bikes across several different categories. We have XC, full powered EMTB, gravel, and pedaling enduro. Now why do we structure this buyer's guide this way? Well, at the end of the year, we always like to do a comprehensive buyer's guide. However, heading into 2026, we know a lot of riders out there are probably setting goals for themselves for the next year. And me personally, I love riding anything two wheels. I love spending time both on drop bar bikes as well as XC, and I love a rowdy descent. Now, if you don't see the category or the bike that you were hoping we would review in this buyer's guide, be sure to subscribe to the channel because we have some big plans for 2026. And that's why also throughout this year, we are gonna be testing some different formats because in 2026, we already have some massive plans, and testing out some different concepts in this series is really gonna help us figure out how to bring you guys the information in the smoothest way possible. You guys can let us know in the comment section if you guys do enjoy these buyer's guide and what you guys like about them. It really does help support the channel a ton. And we also wanna give a huge thank you to the supporters of this series, and that is Feedback Sports, Tailwind Nutrition, Pit Viper Sunglasses, and Formula 100. Without those companies, series like these would be a lot more difficult to make, and we can't thank them enough for their support. Also wanna thank where we're shooting the series, South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona. This place has been the ultimate testing grounds. The people here are so friendly, so accommodating, and overall the trails were exactly what we needed to put all of these bikes through the paces. So up first, we are gonna have the XC portion of our buyer's guide. As you guys can see, we have 6 of the best XC bikes on the market, including 2 of the winners of our previous XC buyer's guide. The first bike we have is the Yeti Cycles ASR, one of the most comfortable XC bikes on the market currently, and overall I've had a blast putting this thing through the ringer. It's insane that Yeti Cycles first time back into XC, they knocked it right out of the park, and I've loved my time on the Yeti Cycles ASR. Next bike we have is the RE Signal Peak, one of the shortest travel bikes in this category, but don't let that travel fool you. It's still very capable. I've raced it both at 24 hours in the old Pueblo and all of BC bike race. It truly is insane what that bike can ride both uphill and down. The next bike is the Rocky Mountain Element, one of the most requested reviews. Earlier last year, we were a little concerned about the future of Rocky Mountain. It looks like they are sticking around, and I'm so happy they are because this bike is absolutely insane. The performance of the Element downhill is wild. It definitely is one of the slacker bikes out of this test, and I would say its performance out on the trails was shocking because not only was it one of the most capable downhill, but also its race pace performance is wild. This is truly a race XC full suspension that has the ability to ride technical terrain. We also have one of the most surprising bikes out of this test, the Salsa Spearfish. When I unboxed the Salsa, I definitely was pretty surprised. That was probably one of the best looking bikes out of the year. I was truly blown away by the build, and after putting this bike through the paces out here in South Mountain, the adventure style ride quality to the Salsa Spearfish out here is pretty insane. I'm gonna keep going back to the word adventure because the word adventure sums up the Salsa Spearfish so well. Huge shout out to the product team at Salsa. This has been probably one of the most surprising bikes of the year. We also have the legendary Pivot Cycles Mach 4 SL. You guys know I'm a little bit of a Pivot Cycles fanboy. The Mach 4 SL sticking true to that DW Link suspension design. Traction absolutely insane, and out here in South Mountain, traction is probably one of the most important things. You can clearly tell the Pivot Mach 4 SL thrives in more technical environments, but it still has a very race style feel to it. I love what Pivot Cycles is doing, and the Mach 4 SL has been awesome. And last but certainly not least is another one of our previous XC Buyer's Guide winner, and that is the Cannondale Scalpel. Probably one of the most legendary bikes out of this test. There have been so many iterations of the Scalpel. I believe we're in our 8th, and it is very apparent when you're riding this bike, Cannondale knows what they're doing when it comes time for XC. It is insanely capable both downhill and uphill. And overall, there's so many small details of the Cannondale Scalpel that you can tell they've been doing XC for a very long time. Yeah, I've had so much fun my second time of testing on the Cannondale Scalpel. Spoiler alert, this is still Hannah's favorite XC bike. Is it gonna be my favorite XC bike? You guys are gonna have to stick around for the conclusion of this series. Now, with the XC portion of this buyer's guide, we do have a bunch of different different build kits here, and we also have some different suspension offerings. We have everything from RockShox Flight Attendant to mechanical RockShox to a Fox rear shock to Fox electronic wireless Neo rear shock to a carbon lefty Ocho fork. We have so many different wheels, drivetrain, tires, bars, stems. And the way this buyer's guide is going to go is the first thing we're going to do is going to break down each one of these bikes independently with their own review, and then we're going to have a conclusion video where I talk about what I personally thought was the best XC bike. I give out the awards, and I also talk about what I think is the best components for XC and how I would personally build up my dream XC bike. So stay tuned for all of that in the conclusion video of this series. And here we have the EMTB portion of this buyer's guide. So these are going to be full power EMTBs, and they're all going to be equipped with Bosch motors. We want to keep the motors consistent throughout this test. In my opinion, if I was in the market for an e-bike, these are the 4 e-bikes I would be considering. The first bike we have is the Yeti Cycles LTE. This is the full travel, full power offering from Yeti Cycles. It was released earlier this year. This bike has a very race-oriented feel to it out on the trails. I absolutely love the looks of this bike. I do think it is one of the best looking e-bikes on the market. It does have 170 millimeters of travel up front, 160 millimeters of travel in the rear, and Yeti Cycles is 650D suspension line that they've been using on their e-bikes. Absolute insane suspension performance out on the trails and a true race-oriented e-bike. The other bike we have is the Transition Regulator CX, one of the shortest travel bikes in this test, but that short travel shouldn't fool you. It is plenty capable. It just has that capability in a very fun package out on the trails. It comes as a mullet stock, and it's also one of the few bikes in this test with a 600 watt-hour battery, so we do have some weight savings there. It has the giddy-up suspension platform, and over the last few years, I have fallen in love with Transition bikes. It truly feels like they make bikes they want to ride, and the Transition Regulator CX absolute blast out here in South Mountain. Now the next bike we have is the Pivot Cycles Shuttle AM. Once again, I am a little bit of a Pivot Cycles fanboy. I love DW Link, and the Shuttle AM blends 2 worlds together. It has a very confident approach, especially in the chunk. Still retains that playful nature Pivot Cycle bikes are known for. It has a lot of that playfulness comes from that shorter chainstay and a little bit more of a poppy suspension design. And overall, the performance of the Shuttle AM out here in South Mountain, you can clearly tell home court advantage when it comes time for geo, but Pivot Cycles has also been doing e-bikes for a very long time, and you can tell with some small details throughout the Shuttle AM that they know what they're doing when it comes time for e-bikes. The last bike is the RE Timpeak, one of the best value e-bikes out of this test, and also one of the burliest. I have the Timpeak set up with a Fox podium fork up front and a RockShox Vivid, probably one of my favorite suspension combos on an e-bike, and the reason I did this is because I could get this exact configuration of this bike directly from RE. That's the cool thing with having a direct-to-consumer brand. You're able to make changes through your build kit in the ordering process. Now the RE Timpeak, a very versatile e-bike. It has a ton of capabilities out on the trails, but it still tries to retain a playful nature in its geo. And the cool thing is the geo is adjustable. You can go between short and long on that rear chainstay. Even though on paper it's a 170 millimeter travel e-bike, it definitely doesn't feel that way. It has a very playful approach to the trails, but it's still plenty capable. Now, all of these e-bikes, even though they are full powered and they do use Bosch motors, there are some subtle differences between them. I wanted to show you guys in this buyer's guide the range of different e-bikes that utilize the same motors. I just feel like it's really cool where e-bikes are. There's so many options for customers to choose from, and whether you want a more playful e-bike or a much more capable e-bike, throughout this test, you guys will see the differences between all 4 of these options. Now, the way the e-bike portion of this buyer's guide is going to go down, each one of these bikes will get its own independent review, and then we'll have a conclusion video where I talk about what I personally think is the best e-bike out of the test, and also some things I learned about e-bikes throughout this time of testing. Now, if you are interested in the DJI or the Specialized motor, be sure to subscribe to the channel because we have some big plans for 2026. Also, let us know in the comment section if there's an e-bike you would like us to review. Now, we also have a gravel portion of this buyer's guide, and this has probably been one of my favorite new things for 2025. I personally love riding road and gravel. This year, we finally decided to start sharing gravel reviews with you guys. Now, before heading into 2026, where we have some bigger gravel plans, we did want to do a mini shootout to really test the waters here. The best part is we have 3 very unique gravel builds here that I feel like do a good job of covering the spectrum of gravel riders right now. And I feel like with gravel, you have 3 categories here. You have your classic gravel cyclist, and that's going to be the cyclist that loves all of the latest and greatest gravel tech. You also have roadies who want to spend a little bit less time on the road, more time on the dirt, especially with how dangerous road cycling is getting. And then you also have your mountain bikers that maybe are drop bar curious. They want to transition to a more drop bar style bike, but they might not want to go all the way into the more aggressive gravel bike spectrum. So the first bike we have in the test is the brand new RE Schaefer 3.0, and I feel like this is going to be your classic gravel cyclist because I would say this has all of the latest and greatest technology in the gravel world. And on top of that, I feel like this is a pure gravel bike. You have a very aero element to it, but at the same time too, you're still able to have a ton of fun off-road. And also in terms of suspension, we have that Rudy XL on there from RockShox. That is probably one of the most insane forks I have tested out lately. And we also have a dropper post in the brand new Explorer 13-speed group set. Now, once again, not only is it very capable off-road, but it has that aero element to it. So so big days in the saddle are gonna be a breeze on the RE Schaefer. Now for our mountain bikers who might be a little bit more drop bar curious, we have the brand new Pivot Cycles drop bar less build. Now this bike actually hasn't been released yet. Stay tuned, it will be available for purchase in a few weeks, but Pivot Cycles will be offering the less in a drop bar build. They know a lot of mountain bikers are starting to get drop bar curious, but they don't want to give up all of the elements of the mountain, and I feel like the drop bar less is the perfect bike for that mountain biker that wants to try the drop bar life. They want to have a little bit more of an aero element when they're commuting to their trails, or say they have some bigger adventures, they want to do bike packing. This is going to be an epic setup for that, and all of the tough work is already done for you, because we always see those comments, why don't you just take a hardtail and turn it into a drop bar bike? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. You do need the road levers, you also need to make sure everything matches up. Pivot Cycles took care of all of the hard part for you, but you still get a very high performance hardtail frame with their less SL. Once again, that build will be available for purchase in a few weeks. Stay tuned for that. And last but certainly not least, we have the Cannondale Topstone. Now this is going to be a very interesting build, because even though we almost have a full suspension here with the Topstone, we have that lefty fork up front and we have the Kingpin suspension in the rear, so a little bit of flex, almost like a vibration dampener in the rear. It has a little bit more of a conservative geo, and it has a very race style feel out on the trails. You want a little bit more of an aero setup, and you want the bike to feel very good off-road as well as on-road. You think you're gonna be spending a lot of time on pavement. The Cannondale Topstone, I would say the efficiency of this bike is absolutely crazy, but then when you combine that with the lefty fork up front and that Kingpin rear suspension, one of the smoothest rides over a chunk. I was very impressed that a bike could be so efficient, but at the same time so capable as well. Once again, I do feel like each one of these bikes would be an amazing gravel build, and like I said, I feel like each one checks all of the boxes that different riders might be interested in. Now, I really do feel like each one of these bikes is an amazing gravel bike in its own right. I just feel like each of them is going to be for a different style of rider out there. How do they compare to each other, and what do I personally think is the best gravel bike out of these three? You guys will have to stick around to the conclusion video of the gravel portion of our series, where I tell you guys what is the winners, who each bike is for, and on top of that, what I personally think is the best gravel build, because I do think I have my preferences, especially after spending more time on each of these bikes. And finally, we have the battle of my favorite all mountain bikes. Now, these two bikes are my personal favorite test bikes of the year, because I'm the type of rider where I like really big days in the saddle. I love climbing, but I still love a rowdy descent, and I feel like that 140 to 150 millimeter travel category is perfect for me. You guys know I absolutely love the Pivot Cycles Switchblade. This is actually my personal bike. I fell in love with it last year. I knew I had to have one, and I have taken it all over the country. I've ridden it inside of Whistler Bike Park, Laguna Beach, Sedona, South Mountain, anywhere and everywhere, and it has constantly put so many smiles on my face. Once again, this has probably been one of the best pedaling enduro bikes on the market. But recently we got the Evil offering V4 in the test quiver. Now this bike was recently released by Evil Cycles. This is the brand new offering, and you guys know I fell in love with this. I truly think this has probably been one of the most perfect mountain bikes I have tested. It's very capable in the sense it still retains a very playful nature out on the trails. I love the size proportional chainstays, and overall I am blown away at what Evil Cycles is able to do with the offering. I love that Delta suspension platform, and it is just so capable out on the trails. That makes things a little bit awkward for the Pivot Cycles Switchblade, because if I think the Evil offering is the perfect mountain bike, is the Pivot Cycles Switchblade still my favorite mountain bike? And that's why I figured a little bit of a comparison between these two, because I know I'm going to get those questions a ton. So hopefully you guys enjoy the awesome EMTB fall bike buyer's guide. Like I said, I wanted to make sure everyone was included in this, because me personally, I love riding anything two wheels. I love spending time on drop bar bikes. I love XC, but I also love a rowdy descents, and e-bikes are also a ton of fun as well. And once again, you guys, if we didn't cover your category in this buyer's guide, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and also let us know in the comment section, because we're already starting to plan 2026. And the same goes for if we didn't cover your bike. Once again, let us know in the comment section. We really do listen to that feedback, and that helps us better plan for 2026. Once again, we want to make the process of buying your next bike a lot less stressful by giving you guys all of the information needed to make an informed decision on your next bike. So with all of that being said, who do you guys think are going to be the winners of our buyer's guide? Once again, stay tuned for the conclusion video. It's going to be a really awesome next few weeks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the series, and until next time, you guys, ride awesome.